and welcome to the Q Today show for May the 8th until May the 11th. I'm Allison Duddy, one of your hosts for this program.
And I'm your other host, Mitch Vick.
So Mitch, we were talking last week about the seed swap that was coming up this weekend, and I'm wondering if you made it.
I did.
How was it?
It was excellent. Not only there was some fine people there offering some seeds, which we just had to make a donation to the local food bank. So that was a great way to raise some food for the food bank. And we got some seeds, but there was other vendors there as well, or maybe not vendors, but people describing what they do in agriculture in our area. And there was ranching. Triple J Ranch had a little piece there. That was nice to see them there. And there was also some bigger agriculture to do with barley and wheat. It wasn't just garden seeds, but we got some seeds. My wife got some strawberry plants, so it was a great little outing. It was fantastic.
Great.
Oh, yeah, and there's some seeds. So there's some dill, cosmos, sunflower, autumn red, and basically these seeds are, many of them are, they have a word for it. It escapes me at this point, but it's heritage seeds. That's the word. And basically, they're at least 20 years old, and they are seeds that aren't modified in any way. They're reproduced from the plant, and which is not the way it is really with a lot of seeds these days. So it's good to see they're preserving our heritage when it comes to seeds.
For sure. So informational as well as,
Absolutely. It was about seeds, getting some seeds, but it was also learning about agriculture in our area. So we got a lot out of it. It was great.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the update.
Thank you. Well, moving along, coming up in our show, we've got an excellent interview with Nate and Susan Smith-Josephy. Susan has just completed a best-selling book, Lillian Alling. Lillian, if you can believe it, walked across North America in 1927. So stay tuned and check out Nate in conversation with Susan Smith-Josephy.
Wow. Across North America in 1926, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Before we get into the news, we just want to thank you for watching and remind you that our weekday show runs from Tuesday at 5 p.m. until Friday at 8 a.m. and our weekend show from Friday at 5 p.m. until Tuesday at 8 a.m. And of course, we broadcast every day at 8 a.m., 5 p.m., and 10 p.m.
And if you have any questions on the program, you can reach us by email at qtoday@qcatv.ca. If you'd like some information on how to sponsor us, you can give Nate a call at 992-3650. And as always, thanks to the Quesnel Caribou Observer for providing some of our news stories.
We do just give the highlights here on Q Today, so if you want to get the full details on any of the stories that we cover, pick up your exciting copy of the Quesnel Caribou Observer. And now over to Mitch with some news.
Okay, so it would appear that we have a little bit of another political hot potato on our hands in City Hall. The news released last week describing Mr. Stecyk's departure as city manager was short and to the point. He left for personal reasons and City Hall wished him well. However, according to Sushil Tapar, we may not be getting the whole story. He has filed a Freedom of Information request pertaining to all the financial implications of John Stecyk's departure. In his words, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Having worked for a large corporation in a senior role myself, I understand that basically there is a need for confidentiality. But we are not talking about a company who is only beholden to shareholders. We are talking about an elected government who is accountable to the electorate. This is why some people are a little concerned about perhaps an issue with this story we're talking about. This is why people like Autumn McDonald are getting frustrated, if you read her editorial, that transparency is being trumped by confidentiality. So we thought there might be something to this. We hope there's not. You know, when someone leaves their employment, you wish them well. And let's just hope that is all this is. But perhaps not. And we'll keep an eye on this story.
We will, for sure. Thanks, Mitch. There was a very scary incident in Quesnel last week, and as a result, RCMP are asking parents to be vigilant with their children's safety procedures. Last Tuesday, a boy was riding his bike to Kersley School when he says he was approached by a male driving a newer model black pickup truck with black rims. When the driver told the boy to get into his truck, the boy fled on his bike and reported the incident to the school. The man is described as a younger male with tanned skin and flat brown hair. Anyone with information regarding this incident is asked to call RCMP immediately at 250-992-9211. There were also some really good tips in the article on staying safe, such as talking to your children about strangers. Children should walk or bike to school in groups. Parents should accompany small children to and from school, and never talk to strangers or get in a stranger's vehicle. Scary stuff.
Very.
Yeah.
And we can't underreact enough there. We have to be really vigilant. That's scary. We're talking
It really
about our
is.
children here.
I wasn't that young that long ago, but when I was a kid, we just did what we wanted, went where we wanted. Didn't matter if you were alone or with your friends, and there wasn't as much of a concern. But these days, you have to really be careful with your kids' safety.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So moving along, we're talking today also about the Asian markets remaining fragile in context of our global economy. West Fraser reported total sales of $681 million in the first quarter, but an overall loss of $17 million in the first quarter of 2012. CEO Hank Ketchum stated that there were some market improvements as a whole, but conceded that basically there was some still tough market conditions. In particular, the North American and Asian markets remain fragile. The panel market, which includes plywood, laminated, veneer lumber, and fiberboard, performed well with $1 million in operating revenues, as well as pulp and paper operations performing well with $17 million in operating revenues, despite lower pulp prices, albeit in the same quarter last year, the Hinton pulp mill was shut down for maintenance. Factors such as capital improvement plans will improve results, says Ketchum, but ultimately this outlook is based on the recovery and growth of the North American and Asian economies, which remain fragile. So just another indicator that, it would appear West Fraser's done some improvements for infrastructure in their company, but they're still very susceptible to market fluctuations, and we still have a very fragile situation with Asian demand and the North American demand for their products. So hoping for a continued improvement in those conditions, for sure.
You bet. Okay, thanks, Mitch. So things are moving along with the West Quesnel Land Stability Dewatering Program. Last week, vertical well drilling began, and as of this week, Monday, May the 7th, another significant portion of that program started up as well. Quesnel's mass construction will install a new storm water drainage system on Stork Avenue and Hawk Street. Currently, the Upper Abbott stormwater drain system, it drains into a low-lying treed area west of Crane Avenue. This project will link that storm drain system to the Lower Abbott system, removing stormwater from the West Quesnel Land Stability Study area. Residents should be prepared for some localized traffic delays, some detours off portions of Abbott Drive, Stork Avenue, and Hawk Street for the next 6 to 8 weeks. The estimated cost for this part of the project is $231,000 plus HST, plus an additional $100,000 from the 2012 capital budget for paving once it's complete. So things are moving along with that. It's great to see, and I'm sure that the people that live in that area are happy about that.
I can tell you,
happy
we are very happy.
Moving.
I
You
live
are
in
one
that
of them.
area,
Wow.
and it's very good to see that.
Yeah.
We made a few, reported on a few issues and progress reports, and it's great. It is definitely moving forward, and it's great to see.
Good. Good.
So we have a story here about students at Red Bluff Elementary School. Following February's month of work and reflection on important topics like accepting diversity, tolerance, and the effectiveness of standing up to bullies, the Red Bluff Lhtako Elementary School have put together several songs in association with singer-songwriter Lori Olofsson. While Olofsson worked with 7 classes to help create these songs like I Am Who I Am and Sticks and Stones, Mrs. Neighbor's grade 7 class took a leadership role throughout the month and helped spread the anti-bullying message. They did things such as preparing videos for classmates and doing Q&A for younger students. The RCMP also participated in a workshop on cyberbullying with students. A pink t-shirt day was also held where students decorated their own t-shirts, then gathered for assembly to show off their creativity. Schools in the district have many programs to support social responsibility and work on providing all students with a safe environment. And this was how the Red Bluff Elementary School felt to participate in that overall program of social responsibility. And you know what? Great topic and great participation, it sounds like.
I don't think you can do enough of that stuff with kids when it comes to bullying and some of these important issues.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And it's so great that it's at an elementary level. So as they're getting older, they've already got some of these fundamentals, and
For sure.
hopefully it helps when they get later on in their school years.
That's right.
For sure.
Thanks, Mitch. Moving along, Annie Gallant wrote a great story of survival and hope when faced with cancer for last week's Observer. She tells the stories of two local cancer survivors, Vi Martins and Alvina Charlton. 22 years ago, Martins thought she was going to die when a lump was discovered in her breast and a needle biopsy led to a cancer diagnosis. She spoke about how treatments have changed since her diagnosis and how survival rates have improved considerably, but adds that the cancer journey is still frightening for most and filled with uncertainty. As a breast cancer survivor and support group facilitator, Martins has continued to work with those diagnosed with the disease and has seen many women go through the terrifying process. One of those women is Alvina Charlton, who Martins has known for many years. After a series of tests, she was diagnosed with triple-negative breast cancer, which is a type of breast cancer that returns 50% of the time. And if that happens, it's often very aggressive and fast-growing. Her oncologist recommended a course of treatment with a relatively new chemotherapeutic drug, which isn't covered by Pharmacare program or the Canadian Cancer Society. Fortunately, Charlton is lucky enough to have extended coverage. The medication is extremely expensive, $778 roughly for 2 weeks worth. But Charlton did bring up a very good point in the article, wondering what happens to people that don't have extended health benefits? How do they get these medications? The doctor did tell her that if the drugs work, her chances of reoccurrence are reduced to 20%, so that is good news. Along with the support of family and friends, both Martins and Charlton have positive attitudes to help them through. Martins saying, "You never stop worrying about cancer returning, you just find a way to move on." And Charlton says she's going to live life, not sit at home and feel sorry for herself, and if it comes back, she'll deal with it then. You know, I really think attitude and positive attitude when you're dealing with any kind of illness or sickness or disease, I firmly believe that that has a huge part in your recovery. It's just a positive attitude.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you.
For sure.
So if you haven't heard already, Skyfest will be back in 2012 to Quesnel, and it's going to be called Skyfest 2012, and it is set to be bigger and better. Building on the success of the 2010 air show, the Skyfest air show is working towards an event with more participants, trade booths, and other exciting activities. The city has approved the event, and it promises to be much bigger than its predecessor. Skyfest organizer Barb Van Helderen is planning more food vendors, children's activities, and static aircraft displays. The importance of volunteers is not lost on Van Helderen, and how their contribution was priceless the first time around. This show will be no different. She'll need those volunteers back and more. They are looking for help with ticket booths, security, crowd control, and many other duties. It is her goal that participants, volunteers, and spectators have the best time ever. For more information on Skyfest, you can call 250-249-5151.
Oh, my dad will be happy that that's back. He's a real airplane nut. He likes that kind of stuff, so he'll be happy to hear that that's coming back.
It was pretty good in 2010, so if they're planning a bigger and better show with more attractions, more aircraft, more displays, it's going to be
awesome.
amazing. Yeah,
Cool.
It's going to be great.
All right, last month we reported that CHAPS, the Caribou Hoofbeats Assisted Activity Program Society, was moving to their new home at Pen y Bryn Farm before the beginning of this riding season. Well, a couple of weekends ago, Pen y Bryn was buzzing with activity as volunteer carpenters, electricians, and laborers hammered together the new client center, which will include a boot and helmet room, a library area, and a tack room with attached covered stalls. Icon Homes' Joe Hart volunteered his time to oversee the project and called on a host of friends and colleagues for the task. Though he has worked on many volunteer projects, Hart said this project had a bit of a different feel. It's more of a community project, he said. He added with a laugh, "It's amazing what you can get done in a short time, especially when you have food and beer." And I can't agree with him more there. Chair of the CHAPS program, Danielle Frothinger, said she was overwhelmed with the support and no one had to help, they wanted to help. So that meant an awful lot to her. Local businesses also pitched in with materials and supplies, including Rona Home Center, West Fraser Mills, Tom Tucker at 440 Contracting, North Caribou Growers Co-op, James & Sons Electric, Eagle Building Supplies, Icon Homes, and The Door Shop. The CHAPS program offers therapeutic riding and animal-assisted therapy with dogs to special needs clients. With the new location at Penny Bryn, Frothinger expects the program to expand, saying with the move, they've already been able to include all their clients, even the ones that were on the waiting list. So that's awesome. CHAPS sessions are set to begin this week, Monday, May the 7th. Terry Nichols, who is the owner of Penny Bryn with her husband Paul, says she's busy preparing for clients and the very busy season ahead. She credited Frothinger, saying she's the most amazing coordinator and has brought CHAPS to a whole new level. So congratulations to them for getting their new building and program up and running. And if you would like any information on the program or how to volunteer with CHAPS, you can contact Danielle at 250-747-2416.
Great program.
Mm-hmm.
I've had the pleasure of sort of educating myself on that program. We had a visitor at a Lions Club meeting, and what a great organization that really helps out those that otherwise may not be able to communicate with adults and feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And with animals, it's a whole different ball game.
Help come out of their shell a little bit and stuff.
Those that have those difficulties.
I've checked out their website, and it's a great website too. They have pictures of all the animals and information on all of the stuff that they do there. So yeah, definitely a good program.
Really great. So moving into sports, just a quick update on our local lacrosse midget wildfire team. And they recently played the Vanderhoof Bears, and they won both their games, I'm proud to say. The Wildfire kicked off their season with a fundraiser on May 5th and 6th, and by all accounts it went very well. So we're wishing them luck on their season, and we'll keep an eye on their progress and their results.
Thanks, Mitch. Also in sports, trucks and trailers from all over BC and Alberta towing horses and bringing cowboys and girls to Quesnel's Alex Fraser Park for the Quesnel Cutting Horse Show a couple of weekends ago. This brought the event back after an 8-year hiatus. According to Robin Hay, Vice President for the BC Cutting Horse Association, the show was a success and riders were happy with both the footing for the horses and a good herd of cows. If you don't know what cutting is, because I honestly didn't also, put simply, it's keeping one cow away from the herd. The horse and rider come into the paddock that has a herd of cows in there already. They separate one cow from the herd, then the rider drops the reins, and it's up to the horse to keep the cow from going where it wants to go, which is obviously back to the herd. That's when the action begins, as both animals try to deke, spin, and outsmart each other in their respective efforts, while the rider does his best basically to hold on and try and stay on the horse. This usually happens about 3 times in 2.5 minutes. There were winners in many categories. I'm not going to go through every single one of them. Unfortunately, no locals were in the top spots, but of note, Jason Hansen from Redwater, Alberta, had a great showing. He took top honors in 3 categories with 3 different horses. So, sounds like an event that I really would have liked to have gone to had I known more about it ahead of time. So now if I hear about this cutting, because the picture in the paper was fantastic, the horse is down, the guy's just holding on to the, I forget what you call the little knob on the saddle, but the rider is holding on, and the horse is right down on his front feet, you know, deking out the cow. And yeah, it really looks like an exciting rodeo event.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
All right, now as promised, here is Nate talking with a celebrated local author, Susan Smith-Josephy. Susan was captivated by Lillian Alling, and as Allison mentioned at the beginning of our show, the character or the individual portrayed in this book walked across North America and a very compelling book. And so here is Nate's interview with Susan.
Thanks, Ellison and Mitch. And I am here with a special guest, somebody I've known for a little while, Susan Smith-Josephy. How are you, Susan?
Good. Hi, Nate.
It's nice to see you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me here today.
Yeah, and we're here because you wrote your first book.
I did.
This is a first book.
My first one ever.
That's right. You've written a lot in the past for different things.
Yeah,
and I'd like to get
newspapers
into-
and things like that, yeah.
But this is, somebody caught your attention,
Yeah.
and it was Lillian Alling.
Yeah, Lillian Alling. She was a European immigrant who lived in New York City and was working probably as a domestic servant, and life was tough. So she wanted to return back home to Europe and didn't have the money to take a boat. So she decided to walk from New York up to Canada, all the way across Canada, through BC, stayed in Dawson, and then took a boat down the Yukon River.
Okay. Now, how did you hear about Lillian to begin with?
Actually, it was an article written by Andy Motherwell,
Oh.
and he
And Andy Motherwell, everybody knows, is a local...
a local historian.
Yes.
Yeah. And Andy Motherwell wrote an article in the Friends of the Museum newsletter about Lillian Alling. And I was so intrigued, and I thought, it must be a legend or a folk tale. So I thought maybe I would get a book about it from the library, and I went to the library and there was no book.
Okay. So let's make a book.
Let's make a book.
Right.
And so I did do some research, tried to find some articles, and there were some articles.
A
And
few
they
magazine articles?
Yeah, magazine, journal articles, and newspaper articles, and there was a tiny bit on the internet, not much. And but I started digging, and I started, seeing if it was true. And I did a bit more digging, and I
So
found
you
out
were
it was true.
originally a bit of a skeptic?
I-
Could this really happen?
I didn't believe that she did it.
Okay.
I had no, I
Okay.
didn't. Yeah.
Because it's walking across all of North America.
Yeah, it's a long way by herself, and I can understand people walking across North America. People have done it, but it was just walking through the BC and Yukon wilderness alone,
Wow.
and without incident.
And to set the context from this was when? When
She left New York in 1926, and by the time she finished and ended up in Nome, Alaska, it was August of 1929.
So she had a lot of adventures along the way, and you recount some of them in the book.
Yes.
But I would like to know how you decided that this was a book that was worth writing. Were you attracted to the character of Lillian?
Yeah, it was the character. The story is interesting. It's fascinating. I mean, it's a legendary and momentous trek. But once I started getting the piles and piles of paper and learning more about her as a person, it was her character that intrigued me.
And what was so special about Lillian Alling?
She was determined, eccentric, and she never had any doubt in herself. She just kept going no matter what happened. She was arrested, she was lost, she was bitten by bugs, she was exhausted, she was lost in a boat, she was afraid of water and boats, but yet in the end that she did take a boat all the way down by herself down the river.
So she had all these
She was a very
all
determined
these events, but she was determined.
Yeah, yeah.
And is that a value that you have in your own life?
Maybe. At least it's a value that I really admire. And I'm not saying especially because she was a woman in the 1920s, because in those years, everybody walked, and it was a very free time for a lot of people, especially for women.
You were saying that in your family you had relatives that made treks.
Yeah, I mean, everybody walked in those days. And if you were a working class person, you wouldn't have a car. You probably couldn't afford a train, and you certainly couldn't afford a horse. So you walked.
And so we don't really know why she decided to start this trek, or do you have a pretty good idea?
I don't have a pretty good idea. I don't think anybody does, because she never revealed why. She said, I must go to Siberia, and that's what she did. Now, why did she go to Siberia? Well, logically, it's because a push-pull factor, right? She was pushed away. She didn't like New York. It was got to be some sort of a pull factor, and the pull factor was either a family or a friend, or she was homesick to go home.
And so she started in Rochester, New York. She crossed
started
the
in New York
border.
City, but
New York City, okay.
yeah, and then she walked up. And as you know,
Because I'm
Rochester's
from upstate New
exactly,
York. Right.
exactly. So she went to Rochester was the last place before Niagara Falls that we know that she was at. But she's kind of a tricky person in the fact that every time she was interviewed at a place, they'd say, "Where did you come from?" Say when she was in Hazelton, she said, "I'm from Winnipeg."
Oh.
That was the last place. And when she was in Dawson, they would say, "Where were you? Where'd you come from?" She said, "Hazelton." She was sort of hiding her past.
And you said before she was arrested. So
She was.
during her trip, she had a little bit of a jig-jag?
She did. She got to Hazelton, just north of Hazelton, September 1927. And as you know there, it's very mountainous, and winter comes soon in the mountains.
Right.
And she was reported at cabin 2 of the Telegraph Trail.
And there's a whole set of cabins up the Telegraph Trail, which
Right.
actually went through Quesnel at one time, and you have a map in the book about that shows it.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So she was at the cabin 2. The telegraph operator said she shouldn't be here because pretty soon it's going to be winter within weeks,
Right.
and it gets to be 6 feet of snow in the mountains, and she wouldn't have made it. And so he telegraphed back to the police. The police came and got her, and she made a huge ruckus, huge fuss, swearing and cursing in the courtroom, and she was arrested and sent to Ocala.
Okay, where she spent a few months?
I
or-
think, we don't really know because
Okay.
the records were destroyed. But yeah, at least 2 weeks to a couple of months, and she was let out. And then,
And then she said, "Well, okay, I'm going to keep going now."
yeah, I mean, she must have been devastated, furiously angry, but she did come back and start again the next year.
And then you recount the fact that she gained notoriety, I think, as she went north
She did
to
because
Dawson, and
she did because the people there in Hazelton knew her from the year before, so they remembered her. But also, the Telegraph was well used by the newspapers, so they would send their stories back and forth. They were one of the biggest users of the Telegraph, and they picked up the story that was being tapped back and forth by the telegraph operators. She's on her way, tap,
Right.
tap, tap.
Oh.
And so they picked it up, and by the time she got to Whitehorse, they were already calling her the Mystery Woman, which is a good name for her.
because where did she come
Where
from?
did she come from? Where did she go?
Yeah. And so she didn't take kindly to notoriety, did she?
She hated publicity. She, of the 5 photographs we have, 2 of them are of her back. Because
yeah, she's walking away.
they
Yeah.
took one photograph of her at the front, and then she said, "Well, that's enough of that." She walked away. Click.
Yeah, yeah.
So we know a lot of what her backpack looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
So her public pronouncements are pretty sparse then, hey?
Yep. It was pretty tricky to find stuff about her. There was some really good newspaper articles in Dawson and Whitehorse, and in that there was some clues, which I followed up painstakingly, trying to find the names of people, and I interviewed some of the grandsons and granddaughters of people that met her, and yeah.
And so she ended up at the very west coast of Alaska, and that's where the trail goes cold?
It sort of goes cold and sort of doesn't. There's some intriguing points. First of all, she's a survivor, and I'm not just saying that in a light way. I mean, she survived some really, really good and really hard times in the environment. Weather, wind, water. So I don't think that it just would have just ended just
Right.
because the continent did. Like she
Yes.
kept going. Plus, there was a lot of travel back and forth in those days between Alaska and Siberia, from the First Nations people back and forth, and the traders, the American traders, fur traders, and it was natural for people to go back and forth.
So you have hope that she
I do.
survived.
Yeah. The only thing is, we have no real evidence except for one letter.
Right, and we're gonna let people buy the book
And
to
read
read
it.
about.
Absolutely.
to read it.
Yeah.
This is at Carryall.
Yeah.
Okay, and it was
It's also at the Quesnel Museum.
thank you, And you are actually going to be doing a little talk in Williams Lake?
Yeah, I don't know the date yet, but I'll be at the Williams Lake Library.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just one last thing about the publisher. You, it must have been quite the adventure to get a publisher interested in, because they must see thousands and thousands of
I had a couple of
manuscripts.
advantages there. One is I already had a blog, and I was being followed by someone from the Globe and Mail. So when the opera came out, which was coincidental that
Right,
someone
there
was
was
doing a Lillian Alling opera, the guy from the Globe and Mail phoned me and said, "Can I interview you?" I was like, "Well, okay." And so then by that time, the publisher already had my information. So I phoned her and I said, "Well, who should I tell her I'm publishing with?" And she said, "Tell her it's me."
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
good. So it was
but
good for them.
Yeah, yeah. So that was good.
Okay. So any last words about Lillian Alling and the impression she made on you?
Well,
or-
what I'm hoping that, I mean, Lillian Alling for me, it's written and it's done. But I hope that somewhere, somebody out there will have some more information, and maybe
Call you.
or email me. But yeah, maybe somewhere in Russia or Poland, or you never know.
Good. So we're going to get busy on a Russian translation then.
Oh, well, a friend of mine in Russia has it right now. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, Susan, thank you very much for being with me
thanks,
today.
Nate.
Congratulations on a great book.
Thank you.
I know people in my family have read it and really have
good.
enjoyed it.
Good.
And I'm looking forward to reading it totally. I looked through it and got the gist of it, and it's a great story. So
Thanks.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Allison and Mitch.
Wow, talk about feminism. Lillian Alling made her way to Nome, Alaska, but the mystery remains. Did she get home? Moving along, our photo of the day, our good friend Dave Sutton was busy again this past weekend. He took these pictures at the museum book sale and at the first farmers market of the season on Saturday. Thanks, as always, to Dave. We do really appreciate you sending those in. Now, we had our first photo of the week contest winner last week, Sandy Walker. Sandy won a copy of this awesome Golf Privilege Club book that we have here, and we're giving it away at Q today in partnership with the BC Lung Association. It's a great little book. There's lots of savings from golf courses all over BC, all the way over into Manitoba and south down into Washington State. There's a few courses, and both of our Quesnel courses are included in here as well. And it normally sells for $35, but here at Q today, for the price of sending us one picture, it could be yours for free. So even if you're not a golfer, it will make a great gift. Enter your pictures ASAP. We'll be making another draw at the end of this week and every week until the end of June. And you can email those pictures to us at qtoday@qcatv.ca and get entered to win.
All right. Now it's time to take a look at what events are coming up locally with our community calendar. And one more addition to our community calendar, don't forget about the Water Walker Film Festival, which will be happening on Friday, May 11th, 2012 at the Music Room in the Corlew School from 7 to 10 p.m. Tickets are $10 in advance and $12 out the door. This promises to be a great little event here, so don't forget to check that out.
Yeah.
There
All
we go.
Thanks, Mitch. And that is it for this show. If you would like to give us any feedback or tips on news that you think we should cover here on Q Today, you can contact us by email at qtoday@qcatv.ca. If you would like to be a sponsor or volunteer, you can also call Nate at 250-992-3650 or call the station and leave a message for John McKenzie at 250-992-8363.
And remember, Q Today is produced by QMag, the Quesnel Media Access Group. You can also watch us on the internet at Quesnel Community Access TV. And again, that website is www.qcatv.ca and is run by our colleague Eddie and friend Eddie D'Souza.
Thanks for watching, and remember, our purpose is to get Quesnel talking.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.